GoForThe2.com in with the Week 13 college football predictions. It's Thanksgiving time. It's rivalry weekend, and it doesn't get better than this. This is what it's all about. Let's get right into the picks for this coming weekend. We start on Friday, a very intriguing SEC battle between Arkansas and Missouri. Arkansas coming off a dominating 58-42 victory over a gutty Mississippi State team in Starkville. They expended a lot of energy in that battle. Now have back-to-back road games. They now have to go on the road to Columbia to face a very up-tempo offense led by Drew Lock in Missouri that put up 740 total yards in the 63-37 loss to Tennessee in Neyland Stadium. I like Missouri last week. They were in that game from start to finish, and in the last 8 minutes broke down in that battle. But you're talking about an offense that put up 420 rushing yards on the Volunteers defense, and they also put up 320 yards through the air against Tennessee on the road. They now come back home to face an Arkansas defense that's given up 31 points per game, and more importantly, 216 rushing yards on the ground. I think Missouri could really force the envelope against Arkansas. When you look at this matchup overall, I think Missouri can move the football on Arkansas's defense. And when you look at that matchup on the road in Neyland Stadium, Missouri gave up a lot of big plays to Josh Dobbs and his mobility. Arkansas is not the same type of offense. They're a pro-style offense that likes to run the football between the tackles with Austin Allen and work off of play action. I think that they can force Arkansas to methodically work down the field and get them into a shootout where they'll be in striking distance. I like Missouri's chances at home. They're playing very well under Barry Odom, and Drew Lock has progressed exceptionally well in the passing game. I think Missouri will be in a position to strike the upset, but in the end, I do feel that Arkansas picks up a 38-35 victory on the road in Columbia, but I feel this game comes down to the last possession. Look for Missouri to almost be in a position to strike the upset Friday afternoon in Columbia. Another intriguing battle in the ACC. It starts between Wake Forest and Boston College. Boston College coming off an impressive home victory over a gutty UConn team, a UConn defense that's very solid in run support. Boston College put up 30 points on that defense. They're fighting to become bowl eligible. They're 5-6 overall. They go on the road to Winston-Salem to face Wake Forest. Wake Forest coming off two solid games against Clemson and Louisville, two of the best teams in the ACC, and their defense in the end of that matchup wore down. Clemson jumped out to a 28-0 first half lead and held on for a 22-point victory in Salem. They now face a very blue-collar offense and defensive lines in Boston College with an experienced quarterback in Patrick Tolles. Boston College, very solid in run support, only giving up 103 rushing yards on the ground. They're +3 in turnover margin, and more importantly, have 35 sacks on the year. So I think Boston College defense will be in this ballgame from start to finish. I think this is another game that goes down to the wire, and I like the Eagles on the road with the more experienced quarterback, and more importantly, a team fighting to become bowl eligible. Wake Forest already became bowl eligible 3 games ago with a 27-20 victory over Virginia. So not a lot on the line for the Demon Deacons in this matchup. John Wolford does come back, but I don't think it matters. Boston College strikes the upset on the road, 17-13 over Wake Forest, and the Eagles do become bowl eligible this coming Saturday. Another intriguing battle is in the Pac-12. It's Washington State and Washington. Washington coming off a dominating 26-point victory over Arizona State. They dominated that game from start to finish. In the end, though, they did pick up the solid home victory, bouncing back after the home loss to USC 2 weeks ago. You look at the flip side. Washington State coming off a disappointing road loss to Colorado. They had that lead early in the first half and were in a position 28-24 to strike the upset. But in the end, in the fourth quarter, Colorado pulled away and won that ball game by double digits. Washington State comes back home. You look at the series overall, Washington has dominated since 2011, has won 4 of the last 5 by 20 points per game. But I really feel that Washington State will be in this matchup. Last year, Luke Falk did not play in that ball game when they got blown out in Seattle, 45-10. I like the running back situation of Washington State. Morrow, Williams, and Wicks. I think they could put pressure on Washington's defense in this matchup. Look for Mike Leach to utilize them in the short to intermediate passing game. And more importantly, I still like Washington State's defense. They're not as physical as Washington, but they're very solid in run support, only giving up 116 rushing yards on the ground. They're still opportunistic, plus 11 in turnover margin, and Mike Leach's offense is still running the football effectively over 120 yards per game. I think that makes them dangerous in this matchup, and I'm calling for the upset this coming Saturday. I look for Wazoo to bounce back in a big way. I think it's high scoring. Washington State gets the upset 42-34 over Jake Browning and the Huskies. I think it's a shootout, but Washington State and Luke Falk strike the upset this coming Saturday. We'll stay in the Pac-12 with an intriguing battle. USC and Sam Darnold face arch rival Notre Dame. Notre Dame coming off a disappointing 34-31 home loss after leading that game 17-0 in the first half. They let that lead slip. Defense wore down, and they lost that matchup 34-31. They're 4-7 overall. They don't have a lot to play for in terms of there's no bowl opportunity. This is their bowl game facing USC. Now, they've won 3 of the last 5 by 7 points per game, and they won last year by 10 points, 41-31. USC is one of the hottest teams in the nation, led by their quarterback, Sam Darnold. You look at his numbers, 24 touchdown passes, 8 interceptions. But you look at the flip side, Deshaun Kaiser, the same statistics, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. More importantly, Kaiser over the last 5 games, 10 touchdown passes, only 1 interception. I think Deshaun Kaiser keeps Notre Dame in this matchup. I look for him to attack the USC secondary. I look for them to put up points on USC in this battle. I look for them to travel well in this game. I look for them to be in a position to strike the upset. But in the end, USC does get the 30-23 home victory over Notre Dame and keeps their Pac-12 championship hopes alive this coming weekend. Notre Dame pushes the envelope against USC in this battle. Another intriguing battle is the Egg Bowl. It's an interesting battle when you think about it. It's Mississippi State on the road to face Ole Miss and Shea Patterson. Shea Patterson struggled last week on the road in Nashville. They lost that bowl game to Vanderbilt by double digits. They now come back home where they've dominated the matchup over Ole Miss. They won 4 of the last 5. But I look at the gutty team led by Nick Fitzgerald with a better defense in terms of run support. Mississippi State only giving up 175 rushing yards on the ground. They're balanced offensively, passing for over 200 and running for over 200, and Nick Fitzgerald is a mobile quarterback. You look at Ole Miss's defense overall, they're giving up 227 rushing yards on the ground to opposing offenses. I think this is the difference in the matchup. I look for Nick Fitzgerald to put pressure on the edge of Ole Miss's secondary, and I do feel that Mississippi State gets the upset in Oxford this coming weekend. I think it's a bad spot for Shea Patterson. He's a young kid. He's a freshman. He's going up against his in-state arch rival, and they're fighting to become bowl eligible. It's a lot of pressure to ask for a young quarterback, even though he has the athletic ability, going with the more seasoned quarterback at this point in the season in Nick Fitzgerald, and look for the Bulldogs to get the upset victory this weekend in Oxford. I think it's high scoring, 38-31 over the Ole Miss Rebels. Mississippi State gets the upset this coming weekend. Another intriguing battle in the Big Ten. It's Wisconsin and Minnesota. Wisconsin has dominated the series since 2011, 5-0 by 17 points per game. But they're playing a very blue-collar, gutty team in Minnesota that's coming off a very impressive 29-12 victory over Northwestern last week. This is a defense that is very solid in run support, only giving up 116 yards on the ground. They're plus 11 in turnover margin, and they have 33 sacks on the year. But more importantly, they have an experienced quarterback in Mitch Leidner, solid running back in Rodney Smith, and you look at the way they've played on the road this year in conference. 2 weeks ago, they lost to a solid Nebraska team, 24-17. They faced Penn State on the road, pushed them to overtime. I like the way Minnesota plays on the road. I think they'll be in this game from start to finish, and I'm calling for the upset. I really feel that the Golden Gophers get the upset victory over Wisconsin this weekend. I'm calling for the 24-20 victory over the Badgers this coming weekend in an upset. A lot of eyes on Wisconsin. They're playing lights out, but I think they really face their match in this ballgame with the blue-collar team in Minnesota. It's been all dogs for Thanksgiving, so let's go with the favorite. It's got to be Georgia. Georgia has won 4 of the last 5 over Georgia Tech by 14 points per game. Really like the way they're playing on the defensive side of the ball, giving up only 143 rushing yards per game. Their defensive front seven has been very solid, not only in run support, but in sacks. Entering that battle last week, 2 weeks ago against Auburn, they had 13 sacks through 4 games. To me, they're understanding Kirby Smart's defensive scheme, and they're very solid in the secondary as well. But more importantly, you look at Georgia Tech's pass secondary, giving up 243 yards to opposing quarterbacks. I look for Jacob Eason to stretch that defense vertically, look for Isaiah McKenzie to break out, and I look for the offensive line to really wear down Georgia Tech's defensive front seven. Look for Georgia to start fast and put the pressure on Georgia Tech to respond. Look for the Bulldogs to get them out of their game plan early. I really think the Bulldogs win this ball game by double digits. I know they won last year in Atlanta by 5 points, but to me, this is a different team at this point in the season that really believes in their head coach and Kirby Smart. The Bulldogs do get a convincing 17-point victory this coming weekend at home, 37-20 over Georgia Tech. Those are the picks for this coming weekend. College football is the best. Stay with me each and every Saturday. Listen to the radio show on SB Nation Radio. That's sbnationradio.com, 10 to 12 each and every Saturday. Also on Fantasy Sports Radio Network, fntsy.com/radio. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the games. College football is the best. I just love talking about it.